On the night of August 10, 2018, a strange and shocking event unfolded at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, USA. A Bombardier Q400 from Horizon Air suddenly took off without being on any flight schedule, without a registered pilot, and without any warning sent to air traffic control. The situation quickly escalated to a red alert as two F-15 fighter jets from the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, were immediately deployed to stop the mysterious aircraft at all costs. When air traffic controllers attempted to communicate with the unknown pilot, the truth emerged, leaving America and the world in shock. Who had stolen the Q400? Why did it take off in complete silence? What was really happening in the cockpit? Could this be the beginning of another terrifying attack like 9/11? The aircraft involved was a Bombardier Q400, registration number N449Q, manufactured in 2012 by Bombardier Aviation. With an average price between $32 million and $34 million, this was a modern turboprop jet equipped with two Pratt & Whitney PW150A engines, capable of carrying up to 78 passengers and operating efficiently on short-haul flights. At 1:35 p.m. that day, the Q400 had landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport after a commercial flight from Victoria, Canada. According to the plan, it was scheduled to remain at the airport for the rest of the day, no further flights, no assigned crew, and certainly, no one was authorized to enter the cockpit. Yet, at 7:15 p.m., a mysterious man drove a tow tractor into the cargo area. No one noticed, no one suspected a thing. Just 4 minutes later, at 7:19 p.m., he climbed into the Q400 and started flipping switches, powering up the engines. 8 minutes later, he stepped out of the cockpit, used the tow tractor to turn the plane towards the runway. By 7:33 p.m., he was back inside, taxiing the Q400 toward runway 16C. Everything happened in complete silence, no alarms, no interruptions. But the moment the Q400 lifted off the ground, a terrifying mystery had just begun. Without any warning and no one intervening, the Q400 was ready to take off. As soon as air traffic controllers at Seattle-Tacoma detected something unusual, they immediately tried to contact the Q400 to identify the pilot. The plane was lined up on runway 16C. Please provide your information, but there was no response. Tension quickly filled the control room. No one knew who was on board. Inside the cockpit, the mysterious man sat behind the controls, but no one could predict what he was planning to do. A minute later, a voice finally came over the radio. "This is Seattle-Tacoma, right? I work for Horizon Airlines. Just calling to let you know I'm about to take off. It's gonna be wild, trust me." Seconds later, the Q400 began accelerating down the runway. An Alaska Airlines jet parked nearby reported seeing smoke coming from the brakes. Just before 7:32 p.m., the Q400 lifted off with a single man inside, completely alone, unauthorized, and unstoppable. Air traffic control and airport security immediately scrambled to identify the person in the cockpit. It didn't take long to find out. His name was Richard Russell, a 29-year-old ground service agent for Horizon Air from Sumner, Washington. After taking the Q400 away from the gate, Richard Russell began performing a series of daring aerial maneuvers over Seattle-Tacoma. Flips, rolls, and sudden turns, moves only stunt pilots would dare to attempt. But what stunned everyone was that Russell had never received any professional flight training. He had no aviation certification. He was just a ground crew worker who had never even sat in the cockpit of a real plane before. By around 7:40 p.m., the Q400 he was flying was still in the sky. Then, an emergency message came through. The Q400 has crashed near Mount Rainier, a 4,392-meter high volcano about 87 kilometers from Seattle-Tacoma Airport. For a moment, its signal completely disappeared from the air traffic control radar, making it nearly impossible to establish radio contact. It wasn't until 7:48 p.m. that the plane's signal reappeared, and this time, Richard Russell's voice came through, shaky and panicked. He said, "I'm sorry, my mic went crazy while flying over Mount Rainier. I threw up a little. Please help." "What? Hope this doesn't ruin your day." "Oh, you're just flying the plane around, huh? You seem pretty calm about it." "That's awesome. Wow, I've played a few flight simulator games, so I kind of know what I'm doing." "Alright, can you see the entire landscape? You're good with everything, right? Everything's cool? Great. I just took a spin around Fear, it looks amazing. I think I still have enough fuel to check out some more." After a brief silence, Richard Russell continued talking to air traffic control. He asked, "What do you think I should do next?" The controller, a Federal Aviation Administration (FAA) officer, kept trying to guide Russell toward a safer option. They suggested he fly the plane toward Joy Bay, a nearby military base, to land safely. But Russell refused. The situation spiraled out of control as Richard Russell's voice crackled through the radio. "Wait, are you leading me to a jet? No way, I'm not going to any jet." His tone wavered between nervousness and defiance. Air traffic control tried to keep him calm, steering him away from incoming flights. But Russell seemed detached, his thoughts wandering. "I only have $2,100 left. I started with $3,000. It's burning way faster than I thought." Then, something chilling, Russell admitted he wouldn't land. "If I try, those guys up there will really hurt me. I might break something. I don't want to mess anything up." He hoped for anti-aircraft defenses, but there were none. "We're just looking for a safe place to land, but I'm not ready yet. Fuel's running out too fast. Rick, stall for a bit. We'll figure it out." Moments later, his tone shifted to something bizarrely playful. "Hey, if I land this thing successfully, do you think Alaska Airlines would hire me as a pilot? Come on, I'm the guy here." It was a surreal moment, a man spiraling between reality and fantasy at 14,000 feet. The chaos in the sky triggered an emergency response. The US Air Force deployed 2 F-15 fighter jets armed with missiles from Portland, tearing through the sky at supersonic speed. Sonic booms rocked the city, sending thousands into panic. A KC-135 refueling aircraft was dispatched, ready to intervene if the ordeal stretched on. Meanwhile, Seattle-Tacoma International Airport was locked down. The F-15s weren't given orders to fire, but they attempted to intercept Russell. They flew ahead of the Q400, trying to force a course change. They deployed flares as warnings. But Russell was unpredictable. His erratic flying made it impossible to control the situation. He wasn't following any pattern, just drifting freely, avoiding any attempt at containment. As time wore on, exhaustion set in. His words grew sluggish. "I have a lot of people who care about me. They're going to be disappointed. I just want to say sorry. I'm just a broken guy. I guess I've got a few screws loose." Reality was hitting him hard. Then, at 8:30 p.m., a civilian pilot contacted him, trying to talk him down to a safe landing. Instead, Russell fixated on something else. "Hey, how high do I need to be to do a barrel roll?" He estimated 5,000 feet. And then, against all odds, the unthinkable happened. Russell pulled off a full barrel roll over Puget Sound. An untrained ground crew member executing a stunt even professional pilots hesitate to attempt. Air traffic controllers were left speechless. Down below, the witnesses had no idea they were watching history unfold in the sky. But the fuel gauge was nearing empty, and the end was inevitable. "I don't want to land. I don't have a plan for that." His words were final. At 8:46 p.m., 73 minutes after takeoff, Richard Russell pointed the nose of the Q400 downward and plunged toward Ketron Island, Washington. The impact triggered a massive explosion, lighting up the night sky. Flames devoured the trees, turning the crash site into an inferno. Russell was gone instantly. Miraculously, no one else was harmed. The area was uninhabited. First responders rushed to contain the fire and secure the wreckage. Investigators worked through the night, piecing together the final moments of the Q400. By December 12, 2018, the FBI had retrieved the black box, combing through every last detail, searching for answers. But one question still lingered in the air: why? As investigators combed through the wreckage, trying to piece together the final moments of Richard Russell's fateful flight, a wave of shock and disbelief rippled across the aviation community. How did a man with zero pilot training manage to pull off complex aerial maneuvers that would challenge even experienced stunt pilots? And, more importantly, what had driven him to do it? The FBI's forensic team analyzed the Q400's black box, hoping for answers. Inside, they found recordings of Russell's last transmissions, his voice fluctuating between exhilaration, regret, and resignation. He spoke of people who cared about him, hinted at a life that felt broken, and yet, at times, sounded like he was just having fun. His conversations with air traffic control painted the picture of a man who knew exactly what he was doing, but also someone who had already accepted his fate. As news of the incident spread, social media erupted with theories. Some saw Russell as a tragic figure, a man pushed to the edge by the weight of an unspoken burden. Others painted him as reckless, putting lives at risk with a stolen aircraft. The aviation industry, meanwhile, faced an uncomfortable question: how was it even possible for a ground crew worker to hijack a commercial plane, taxi it to the runway, and take off, completely unnoticed, until it was too late? The incident forced airports across the US to re-evaluate security protocols. Airlines tightened access to aircraft. Horizon Air, the company Russell worked for, introduced stricter background checks. But for those who had listened to his final words, the focus wasn't just on security, it was on the human side of the story. People who had known Richard Russell struggled to make sense of what had happened. His friends described him as a kind-hearted, cheerful guy, someone who made funny YouTube videos, loved to travel, and never showed any signs of distress. His wife, devastated, was left with nothing but unanswered questions. A deeper look into his life revealed that beneath the smiles and jokes, Russell had been struggling. He had dreams, big ones, but felt stuck in a job that didn't fulfill him. He often spoke about wanting to do something more, something meaningful. In one of his final transmissions, he jokingly asked if Alaska Airlines would hire him as a pilot if he landed safely. Was that just a joke? Or was it a glimpse into a dream he knew he could never reach? The world may never know exactly what went through Richard Russell's mind during those final moments. But one thing is certain, his story left an impact that will never be forgotten. It was a moment that exposed cracks in aviation security, a moment that reminded the world how fragile the human mind can be, and a moment that will forever be etched in the history of aviation as one of the most bizarre and haunting incidents ever recorded. Even now, years later, people still remember the stolen Q400, the man who flew it with no training, and the final words he left behind: "I just want to apologize to everyone. I'm just a broken guy." In the days following the tragedy, investigators worked tirelessly to reconstruct the sequence of events. The FBI, the FAA, and the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, pored over flight data, audio recordings, and security footage, trying to understand how Richard Russell, an ordinary ground service agent, had managed to pull off something so unprecedented. One chilling detail emerged from the analysis: Russell had spent months quietly observing and learning from pilots, asking casual yet specific questions about aircraft operations. He had watched cockpit procedures closely, absorbing details most would overlook. He had even spent time on flight simulators, sharpening his understanding of aircraft controls. Though he never received formal training, he had pieced together just enough knowledge to get the Q400 off the ground. Security footage from the airport revealed a stunning lack of oversight. Russell had calmly walked onto the tarmac, conducted what appeared to be routine pre-flight checks, then climbed into the cockpit and powered up the aircraft, all without a single alarm being raised. His familiarity with the plane's systems allowed him to taxi to the runway without drawing suspicion. It wasn't until he was airborne that anyone realized what had happened. In the wake of the incident, airports across the country scrambled to reassess security protocols. The Department of Homeland Security issued new guidelines to prevent unauthorized access to aircraft. Airlines implemented tighter restrictions on ground crew personnel. But the real question lingered: could something like this happen again? Meanwhile, Russell's story took on a life of its own. Some saw him as a tragic figure, a man battling inner demons, seeking one final moment of freedom in the sky. Others viewed him as reckless, endangering lives with his unauthorized flight. Psychologists weighed in, speculating on his mental state, while aviation experts marveled at his ability to handle the aircraft. His final moments remained a subject of debate. Did he intend to crash, or had he lost control? Witnesses on the ground reported seeing the Q400 in a steep dive before it impacted the remote island, engulfing the area in flames. There were no survivors. Yet, in the chaos of those last moments, one thing was clear: Russell had made his peace. His last recorded words still haunt those who heard them. He had joked, laughed, and even admired the beauty of the world from above. But beneath the bravado, there was sorrow. "I hope this doesn't ruin your day. I just want to apologize to everyone. I'm just a broken guy." The crash site was soon turned into a restricted area, marked only by scattered debris and scorched earth. But for those who knew Russell, his story wasn't just about a stolen plane, it was about a man who felt unseen, unheard, and desperately searching for an escape. Years later, the memory of that August evening still lingers. The stolen Q400. The impossible maneuvers. The fighter jets scrambling to intercept. And the final, heart-wrenching words of a man who took to the skies, not to escape justice, but to escape himself. The legend of Sky King only grew stronger in the years that followed. Online forums, YouTube documentaries, and social media pages dedicated to Richard Russell transformed his story into something larger than life. People dissected every detail: the radio conversations, the flight maneuvers, the haunting last words. To some, he was a cautionary tale. To others, he was a tragic hero, a man who broke free from the weight of an invisible struggle and soared through the sky one last time. Even now, years later, the video clips of the Q400's daring rolls and turns continue to circulate, mesmerizing millions. Aviation enthusiasts analyze the technical precision of his flight, wondering how a man with no formal training could execute such complex aerial maneuvers. Psychologists study his case, trying to understand the mental state of a person who chooses to end their life in such a dramatic and public way. But beyond the discussions and theories, what lingers most is the emotional impact of his final flight. Richard Russell wasn't a terrorist. He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't out for revenge. He was just a man, a husband, a friend, a co-worker, who felt lost in a world that didn't seem to notice his pain. His story resonated deeply with people struggling with their own battles. Comments flooded social media. "I know that feeling of wanting to escape. He wasn't crazy, he was just broken. The Sky King didn't crash. He just flew too close to the sun." Russell's final radio transmissions revealed a man caught between exhilaration and sorrow. He marveled at the breathtaking view from the cockpit, joking with air traffic control about whether Alaska Airlines might hire him as a pilot. But woven between the light-hearted moments were gut-wrenching admissions of regret and self-doubt. "I got a lot of people that care about me. It's gonna disappoint them to hear that I did this." As investigators closed the case, Russell's family was left with more questions than answers. How had no one noticed his struggles? What had driven him to this point? Could anything have been done to stop him? They released a statement describing him as a kind, compassionate person who had simply been overwhelmed by something they could never truly understand. In the aftermath, discussions about mental health in high-stress, low-paying jobs like Russell's became more urgent. Airline ground crews often work long hours in physically demanding conditions, with little recognition or emotional support. Was Russell's act an extreme symptom of a larger problem? His case ignited conversations about depression, workplace stress, and the importance of reaching out before it's too late. Yet, despite the tragic end, Richard Russell's story is not just one of despair. For those who followed his final moments, his flight was an unforgettable symbol of fleeting freedom, of a man who, for a brief moment, defied the world and left behind all the weight that had held him down. The term, Sky King, became an enduring tribute, not just to Russell himself, but to anyone who has ever felt trapped in an unfulfilled life, searching for a way to break free. His name lives on, whispered among those who understand what it means to stand on the edge, staring into the unknown. On the internet, tributes continue to appear. Edited clips of his flight set to music. Digital artwork capturing the Q400's final loops through the sky. Poetic captions that read like modern-day myths: "He didn't fall. He flew home." Whether remembered as a lost soul, a daring pilot, or something in between, one thing remains certain: Richard Russell's flight will never be forgotten. Richard Russell's story is one that lingers, haunting yet strangely beautiful, a tragic yet poetic farewell. His final flight, filled with both wonder and sorrow, remains etched in the minds of those who watched, listened, and tried to make sense of it all. Some see him as a lost man searching for a way out, while others see him as a fleeting symbol of freedom, a soul breaking free from the weight of an invisible burden. But beyond the legend of Sky King is a deeper message, one about the silent struggles people face, the importance of mental health, and the desperate need for understanding in a world that often overlooks those who are suffering. His story sparked conversations, ignited awareness, and, in some cases, may have even saved lives by inspiring others to reach out before it was too late. Richard Russell's name will never fade into obscurity. His final words echo across time, a bittersweet reminder of both the beauty and fragility of life. In the endless sky where he took his last flight, he became more than just a man. He became a story, a lesson, and a voice that, though gone, still speaks to those who understand. He flew not to escape life, but because, for a moment, life finally let him fly. If this story made you think, if it touched your emotions, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss more powerful and meaningful stories like this. We will continue to bring you captivating content, shocking true stories, and deep life lessons. Don't forget to like and share to spread this message to more people. Right finger subscribe now. Rocket sparkles.